The slide attack from Zone 2 is essentially a volleyball slide, a fast cut behind the setter where the attacker takes off from one leg and usually flies toward the right pin into Zone 2. We introduced this movement in a previous episode, but now we're looking at it from a conditioning perspective. On the court, it may seem simple: a few steps, a jump, a hit. But inside the body, it's a complex biomechanical story where every muscle and each flexion or extension has a precisely defined role. Depending on the length of the approach and the takeoff point, we refer to it as a long or short slide. The approach path is usually diagonal or parallel to the net. To the spectator, it's just an elegant slip behind the setter, but in reality, it's a carefully rehearsed trajectory of the body's center of mass. It's a typical variation for quick attacks in modern women's volleyball.
Watching the slide attack, it may seem straightforward. The player runs, jumps, and before you can say spike, the ball is on the ground. But inside the lower limbs, a complex technical operation is taking place, with main characters that bear Latin names and an uncompromising work ethic. But we'll get to that in a moment. We'll leave the approach aside for now since we already covered it in the context of a standard spike and move straight to the takeoff. Here's the key. During the takeoff, those same muscles are doing double duty. First comes eccentric braking. Muscles stretch while simultaneously resisting and slowing down the movement, only to immediately convert it into explosive force. That's the stretch shortening cycle. First the muscle lengthens, then contracts explosively for the jump.
This is immediately followed by a fast switch to the concentric phase, involving a classic trio of movements, like a triple lock mechanism. First the ankle clicks, then the knee, then the hip, and the body is airborne. Which muscles are responsible? The plantar flexion at the ankle is handled by the triceps surae. Knee extension is powered by the quadriceps femoris, especially the teardrop-shaped vastus medialis, which stabilizes the knee. And hip extension is driven by the well-known gluteus maximus.
Now let's ask a very practical question. What does all this mean for conditioning? The answer is simple. To execute the takeoff phase of the slide, we need to increase maximum strength and single leg stability. In this moment, one leg does the job of two, and to put it lightly, there's no one else to blame. The sports science literature agrees. Single-leg takeoffs place exceptional demands on the hip and knee extensors, the pelvic stabilizers, and the muscle's ability to absorb high eccentric loads. That's why we turn to proven, honest, and demanding exercises. The kind that don't pretend, but do exactly what they're supposed to.
All of this is closely related to something perhaps less obvious, but even more important. In conditioning, it's not just about how much force a muscle can generate, it's also about whether the joint stays healthy in the process. Joint stability is just as important as muscle strength. And what does that mean for youth training? It means the foundational health aspect of strength training should begin early, even before the age of 12. Not to turn kids into little powerlifters, but to help their musculoskeletal systems adapt from the start to proper loading, healthy joint alignment, and smart muscle cooperation.
That's why we include several stabilization exercises that directly address this issue. These are not flashy moves, rather they're quiet and subtle, but they teach the body how to stay together. Simply put, without a solid foundation, no structure stands for long.
Only on such carefully built foundations does it make sense to continue building. Only then can more demanding exercises be introduced. Exercises that 14-year-old volleyball players can handle not through willpower alone, but through a properly prepared body. No rushing, no skipping steps. And only under these conditions can one even consider exercises that belong strictly to the world of adult athletes. Exercises that require strength, coordination, and stability, and that can only be tolerated by well-built bodies. Bodies not patched together from random talents, but grown gradually, thoughtfully, and with respect for how the human body truly works.
We also need to keep one seemingly small detail in mind. Even though the slide attack always takes off from the left foot, lower body training must never be one-sided. The load should be alternated and both legs should be developed equally. It's equally important to teach the body that even after a one-leg jump, the landing must happen on both feet, softly, in control, and without unnecessary risk. And finally, the strict reminder, without which no coach would sleep well: technique. The knee must follow the direction of the toes, eccentric movement must be controlled, and any inward collapse is unacceptable. What may seem like a minor deviation is often the beginning of issues that will make themselves known sooner or later.
Throughout the movement, one of the main characters is quietly at work: the core. Muscles like the transversus abdominis, multifidi, obliques, and deep hip flexors function mostly isometrically, meaning they stabilize. They keep the torso together so it doesn't break during takeoff or mid-air. During the wind-up, the torso enters slight extension, supported by the erector spinae. Then, during the actual hit, dynamic flexion and rotation kick in. The rectus abdominis and obliques open the pathway for force transfer from the lower body to the arm.
A strong and stable core is the bridge between the jump and the strike. The stronger the bridge, the more power can pass through it, and the less stress is placed on the lumbar spine. What exercises support this? Primarily hip rotations that teach the pelvis and torso to work together without unnecessary tension. Add to that a variety of plank exercises in all imaginable forms. Subtle but effective drills that deeply activate and mobilize the muscles involved in the attack. It's through this consistent work that stability is built. And without stability, no rotation is effective or safe.
Next come the exercises focused on the hitting arm, shoulder girdle, and upper body rotation during the actual strike. From a conditioning perspective, we've already addressed these when discussing the classic attack hit. While it wouldn't hurt to revisit them, it makes more sense to refer you to one of our earlier episodes where this topic is explored thoroughly and with the level of detail it truly deserves. The female body has its natural specifics: a wider pelvis and a sharper Q angle, the angle formed between the line of pull of the quadriceps and the patellar tendon, making the knee more prone to instability and overuse. The slide attack therefore places exceptional demands on the strength and stability of the takeoff leg and on controlling inward knee collapse. For this reason, strength and stability development from 14-year-old girls to elite level execution requires consistent and diligent attention, which is exactly what this episode has been about.